everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Respect Your Passion podcast. It's your boy Jonathan Cruz, also known as Chubby, joined with my brother Dave Irons, my co-host, Wave off the bench.
That's right.
And today we got the pleasure of interviewing John J. Rios, real estate mogul, social media influencer, entrepreneur. thank you for coming in and allowing us to interview and get to know you a little more, brother.
Nah, thank y'all for having me, man. I appreciate it. It's an honor to be here with y'all, for real.
Appreciate you for sure. Can you just start off the pod by just letting the world know who you are, what you do, and what you're all about? Just a little bit.
Who I am, I'm John Rios, originally from the Bronx. Live in Yonkers now. I've been living in Yonkers now for I want to say about 20 years now. Did the majority of my life in healthcare. Worked in healthcare for about 17, 18 years. And been doing real estate now full time for the past 8 years. I'm an associate broker. I run a team here in New York and Connecticut. And that's pretty much it.
What made you like transition into from the healthcare field to the real estate field?
It's a crazy story how that actually happened. Had a really good job working in healthcare. It was very high demand. I used to work like 10, 12 hours a day, 6, 7 days a week. And I worked in the orthopedic department for Columbia Presbyterian.
Okay.
And I worked with the Yankees doctor, Dr. Ahmad, and a couple of other Giants doctors, and it was very stressful situation because everybody's considered a VIP patient. You know, they want you to move around and do all these things, jump through backflips for everybody. But by the time that I had made the switch, now in hindsight, I realized that it was probably the end of my rope anyway. But to make a long story short, prior to me joining doing real estate, my wife had gave me the idea of doing real estate. She was like, you know, so many people, you know, you connect with a lot of people, you would be good at it, you should try it. So I had started pursuing it before, while I was still working my full-time job. Fast forward a few months later, I had a really bad accident in Jamaica. I was cliff diving and I fractured 5 vertebrae in my back. I broke 3 ribs and I had a collapsed lung. So, nonetheless, I was bedridden for a while, had to go through therapy and all that. But during that time, I really focused on getting into real estate during that time that I wasn't working. And essentially, by the time I came back to work, my replacement was basically at my job already by the time I came back. And a few months later, the long and short of it, I ended up getting laid off, and it was either reapply for another position and go back through the motions again, or it was go all in on real estate, and that was what I did. So here we are, haven't looked back since. So
What were those initial thoughts, or what were the process, your thoughts on when you got in that accident and when you were, studying for real estate and just trying to be a part of it?
So what's funny is that I started taking the course prior to my accident, and a lot of people don't know that I failed the real estate exam twice, and they only let you take it twice. And if you take it twice and you fail, you have to take the whole course over. And prior to me failing the second time, I had met my sponsoring broker. And shout out to Helen, man. She's an angel. But I had met her at a career night, and she kept following up after we met. She kept following up all the time. And she's like, hey, how you doing? Hey, how you doing? When I had failed the second time, I was embarrassed to even tell her, like, hey, I'm not doing this. I failed twice. I'm not taking the course again. So I would ignore her calls. So she happened to be calling me one time when I was in the hospital right after the accident. And I'm in this brace from my chin down to my waist, and I'm in the bed in the hospital. And she had called, and I picked up, and I'm like, "What's up? Like, what do you want?" And she's like, "Yo, I'm just checking to see if you had done, the course." I was like, "Listen, man, tell you the truth, I failed twice, and I'm not doing it again." And I kind of hung up on her pretty abruptly. She hit me back like 2 days later. She wasn't giving up. She was relentless. She hit me up like 2 days later. She had sent me a video on YouTube called The Miracle Man of some dude that had a accident in an airplane by himself, and he hadn't started walking again, whatever. And she was like, "Look, I saw this video, it reminded me of you. Why don't you check it out?" And she was like, "And also, since you bedridden, why don't you think about taking the course again? Because you could do it online." And if it wasn't for her, I would have never even done it. I would have never followed through with taking the course again and taking the exams again. And that's exactly what I did. I ended up getting it online, and if it wasn't for her pushing me to do it, I wouldn't have gone that route.
That's that's beautiful. What did she? What do you think that she saw in you that um, prompted her to continuously try to inspire you to go in that direction?
I think that what she saw was when I first met her, I was so excited about real estate. I was like, at the time, that was when like $1 Million Listing was just like getting going on Bravo, and like that was a big show at the time. And my wife always watched it. She put me on to watching it. So at that time, I was really excited about it. And when I met her, I think that on top of the excitement, I had such a thirst for a change. I wanted to do something differently so badly that I guess she saw that as a fire or like, determination or whatever. And I mean, I couldn't tell you what she saw, but I mean, I could only assume that, you know, those feelings that I had of just dying to change careers and the excitement of getting into this career, she saw something there.
Was it all smooth sailing once you got your foot in the door in the real estate field, or was it did you come across some type of
Oh,
obstacles and things of
nah,
that nature?
nah, nah. Plenty of obstacles. Plenty of obstacles. Again, she ended up being my sponsor and broker. So, in the beginning, it's not like when you work a corporate job that you could go to your supervisor, your manager, like, how do I do this? What do I do about that? Like, you get your real estate license, you start working with somebody, you're on your own. Like, you got to figure it out. A lot of the time, you just winging it. So with her, I was constantly hitting her up, like 10 o'clock, 11 o'clock. Yo, I got this going on. What do I do? Because I was active and I was motivated. I just didn't know what to do. And I was able to talk to the people and get people to want to buy and sell real estate, but I didn't know how. So she was a tremendous help. But outside of her helping me, there was still a lot of obstacles. You know what I mean? I worked in like one of the top offices in Westchester, and there weren't too many people that looked like me in my office. If you get what I'm saying.
Yeah.
And the first year, I couldn't get her to help me with everything, so I would look for support within my office. And in my first year, it was tough to get any kind of help, any type of support. But my first year, I did 13 deals, like 7 million in sales volume. And then second year, all of a sudden, everybody wanted to be my friend. Everybody wanted to take me to lunch and want to talk about opportunities.
Yeah.
But that's a part of the game. It's no hard feelings. That is what it is. But plenty of obstacles in the beginning of my career, and still to this day. No real estate transaction is the same. To this date, I've probably sold over 400 houses, and not one of them was exactly the same. Every single deal, there's a different situation, a different scenario, and you constantly learning. So there's always obstacles. Deals fall apart. You thinking you're getting paid 20 grand, You find out the deal fell apart, you ain't making nothing. You just worked 6 months for nothing.
Sheesh.
So
Yeah.
there's plenty of obstacles still, you know.
Right. How was aside from the job and then you being in that accident, like how was your mental? Like, did you did you feel like discouraged or anything when you had that accident, or were you kind of like, all right, it's go time, like let's get better?
I was tremendously discouraged. Tremendously discouraged. Um, the accident fucked me up a lot because I was having a lot of PTSD from it. Um, you know, I was also in a lot of pain for a long time, and then this was like right at the peak of the summer. So I'm wearing this full body brace from my neck to my waist,
Yeah,
hard ass plastic, and like a metal rod down the middle.
yeah,
So it was like uncomfortable, sweating all day long, stinking because you sweating all day. Can't tie your own shoes. Like, so there was, constantly asking people for help. So there was, if anything, it was more discouraging than motivating. I was like, and discouraging in all aspects, not just work. I didn't want to do nothing. I was like, this is crazy. But with time, you work through that mentally. So
How did you work through it mentally? Like, what did you tell yourself? What kept you going? What inspired you?
um, I think my wife played a big part in that. My wife and my son, where my wife is always like, because I've been through a lot in my life, and she's been there with me. And I think that for the most part, she always gives me my time to like sulk and go through it. But then eventually she's like, all right, time to get up, time to get back to it. And my son, I was like, I can't sit and sulk in this forever. I got to get back to it. I got to get back on my feet. I got a family to take care of. So I wasn't um, necessarily like reinvigorated. Like, yeah, I'm excited, but it was almost like a necessity thing. Like, I gotta go, whether I want to do this or not. I gotta get back to it. I gotta get to work. I gotta pursue what I'm trying to do.
I think it's tough when people get discouraged and they fall down. They don't have that uh, purpose in a sense, and I'm glad you had your purpose and was able to get out of that. Same thing for me. Like when I was down, I just looked around me and said like, I got to get up for my family. So that's definitely something that we like to share with the camera because I know there's gonna be a lot of people that watch this that can relate to your story, relate to my story. Because I'm listening to you and I could relate. Like you failed the real estate exam 2 times. I failed the EMT exam twice, and I was
Mm-hmm.
discouraged. I remember going home when I was living in my grandmother's house, and I'm crying tears because I'm a perfectionist. I hate failing,
Yeah.
and I'm crying tears. And my brother's like, "Yo, what you crying about? Like, what happened?" And I'm like, "I failed the EMT exam." He's laughing at me like, "Well, that's what you crying about? You crying like somebody died?" But it was just I was so discouraged, and
Yeah.
I studied and I put all the hard work in, and then to fail, it was like, damn, what now? What now? And everything happens for a reason. I'm not even in the field. I never even pursued. Well, I did pursue, but I ended up getting another opportunity after. But everything happens for a reason,
For
and
sure.
I think that story is powerful, bro. And I think it could help a lot of people just you sharing that, and how you went from essentially rock bottom and had your support system, and look at where you at today.
Oh, that wasn't rock bottom.
What would you consider rock bottom? You think that
that
was
wasn't
deeper?
that wasn't rock bottom at all, man. At the time, it probably felt like rock bottom, but it wasn't rock bottom at all.
I feel
Um, I want to say like 3 years, 4 years into my real estate career, probably like um, a year and a half before COVID. Um, I had got diagnosed with a very rare autoimmune disease, and basically, what would happen was when I would get sick, when I would have like these attacks or these episodes, whatever you want to call them, my eyes would swell shut, like I couldn't see. My lips would swell up, but more importantly, my tongue would swell and my airway would close. So whenever that would happen, I would have to be intubated and put on a ventilator. And the first time that it ever happened, I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I was like, the fuck, like, and it was crazy because you know, you gotta imagine like you get sick on a Monday and you get rushed to the hospital and you wake up the following Friday. Matter of fact, you get sick on a Monday in Yonkers, you wake up the following Friday in the Bronx. It's a crazy mind fuck, and I would never know. I didn't know what happened. I didn't know what was going on. And they had explained to me, they had told me, like, this is what happened to you, whatever. In the beginning, they couldn't figure it out. They couldn't figure out what was wrong with me. And it was happening so frequently that, like, in a 2 year span, I was probably intubated on a ventilator in the ICU 13, 14 times in a 2 year span. And I had doctors from everywhere trying to figure this out. They flew me out to San Diego to USC to do a clinical trial for some medication for them to like basically be like a guinea pig. Like they were drawing blood every day and trying to figure out what was going on with me. And they finally figured out what I had, but they didn't know how to stop it. They didn't know how to control it. So I started these trial medications where I used to have I used to have to inject um, 2 syringes of medication, probably like this big, like 15 milliliters each, um, in my arm every 2 days. And they sent a nurse to come to my house to teach me how to do this in 3 visits. Like you got 3 visits to figure out how to learn how to do this. And I would inject that medication every 2 days. Then after a while, my veins started to get blown out. So they put a port in my chest right here. That port used to be connected directly to my jugular vein. And that's when rock bottom began because every time I was sick, the time that I was in the hospital was one thing. But then when I would get discharged, it would take me 2 to 3 weeks mentally to get myself back together. You gotta understand, like, medically induced comas are no joke. Like, they give you all that medication to keep you down, like, for that long of a time. When you come off of it, you're not right. Your family's all like, "Oh, thank God," they're so happy, but you're not back yet. You're not normal. So every time that I went under, it was a longer process to recover mentally, spiritually, and it was fucking up my business, because people don't give a fuck about you, bro. People don't give a fuck about you. And first couple times, your regular clients, you tell them what's going on. Oh, John, that's horrible. That's, feel bad. After that, they like, and I get it too. It ain't nothing to be mad about, you know. But after a few times, it's like, yo, we got to work with somebody else. So you lose your business. And real estate is a business of momentum. You got to keep that momentum going. So I was constantly losing business. And then, losing my mental. And then when COVID hit, that was that was rock bottom because my business completely flatlined. We went from my team and I went from like 27 deals in contract at the beginning of COVID to like 9 in 3 weeks. Mind you, I had staff to pay, I had family to take care of, and that was rock bottom for me. That was when mentally, spiritually, everything, I went off the deep end at that point. So yeah, the back injury was crazy, but that definitely wasn't it.
What did you do to climb back into it? I know you mentioned you had staff to pay, and you mentioned you had to take care of your family. What was the next step after that?
So I had basically lost everything. I lost everything, and more than anything, man, the material stuff, the money, like the business meant nothing. I lost myself mentally. I lost myself spiritually. Completely disconnected from my wife. Completely disconnected from my son. I was in a dark place. I wanted to kill myself. Like it was just a bad, bad time. And I'm still dealing with this health issue. And then my doctor's calling me, telling me about this COVID shit. And they like, yo, you're autoimmune. So you're in the top 1% of like most susceptible people that like would die from this shit. So I was in full blown panic mode. At the time, my wife worked in the hospital. So she come home from work and I'd be like, yo, take your clothes off at the door, Lysol yourself clean. Like I was bugging. I was bugging. I spazzed one day because I opened my door. I saw the doorman there. I mean the mailman. Yo, get the fuck away from my door. Like that's how crazy I was. And my real estate coach at the time was like a brother to me now. Um, he had started talking to me about plant medicine and these people, these shamans, these indigenous people outside of the country that they heal people of illness, they heal people of all types of mental illness, physical illness, and I became obsessed with wanting to heal myself, and I was like, this is top priority right now. I didn't care about work, I didn't care about nothing, and unfortunately, I lost my family. I left my house. I left my wife. I left my son, and I went on this mission to heal myself. And I went a lot of places out of the country. I done did ayahuasca, Cambo, Bufo, Rape, almost any plant medicine you can think of, you research, I done did it. And I did that for about 2 years. And it was the greatest thing I could have ever done in my life to heal me physically. I don't take medication no more. This thing is out of my chest. I don't inject nothing anymore. Um, so to heal myself mentally, spiritually, physically, that had to hit rock bottom to get to that point.
That's powerful, bro. I'm not gonna lie. That's a powerful story. And like I said, there's gonna be a lot of people that's gonna appreciate you just speaking up on that. We don't know each other from a hole in the wall. Somebody referred you to me,
Yeah.
said you had great energy. I looked on your Instagram and see nothing but value and information that you providing to the people. So people would not know that, but it's good to see both sides of it, of the ups and downs for somebody, and see how you're like at the top right now, just providing for the masses and giving out value. So I want to transition into what you're doing right now on the social media platform with your Synergy team, and what made you decide to utilize your social media platform to give out value in the real estate field.
Um, it was because of my experience, my own experience within the industry. Not really necessarily, I had to seek out guidance. I had to seek out support, and and then when I did, funny thing is that when I did, um, that's when I really saw successful people, quote unquote successful people. and it wasn't about how much money they made. It was like I met dudes that like the flex was how many hours a week they work. It was like, oh, I make 4 million a year and I work 5 hours a week, and being in those types of spaces, getting into those conversations, exposed me to a different level of success, or what we consider success. Because for me it was always like, oh, if I make a lot of money and I buy a fancy car and I have a nice house, I made it. And these were people that, they had that, or they could have that if they want to, but that wasn't relevant. They had wealth, they owned tons of property, but more importantly they had their time. So what I wanted to do was, I wanted to share my experiences. I wanted to share what I was learning outside of my local market, outside of New York, Westchester, the Bronx, like the tri-state area, because nobody else was doing it. And I wanted to come back and show people, like, you know, I could tell you everything I've learned, and it's not gonna affect me, because that's what happens here, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, I'm not gonna teach you my secrets,
Mm-hmm.
because then you're gonna take money out of my pocket. And it's like, nah, there's enough houses, there's enough business for all of us to eat. And I wanted to share that, but I also wanted to share it as vulnerably as possible. Like, yeah, I've been very successful, but I've also lost it all a couple times and built it back up. And I wanted to show the entire picture, because we don't see that all the time. We see the guy with the fancy car, we see the guy with the nice house and the Rolex and the this and that. But do we really know how that happened, or what he went through to get there? And that was what I really wanted to highlight. So when I started my team, that was what it was always about. Um, I run my team very differently than almost any other broker in our area. Um, I give them everything they need as far as support, knowledge. Like, if you eventually want to leave me and go do your own thing, you can. Like, I just try to share as much of the game that I've been privy to, because God has blessed me beyond words. I'm a high school dropout. I got a GED well after high school because of my mom. My mom, I get a GI, I get a GED. But, no form, no real education. And I make a lot of money. And I wanted to show people in the same scenarios that I came from, the same scenarios, backgrounds, demographics, that there's ways to do it. You don't have to do real estate, but there are other ways. You don't have to go get a master's degree. You don't have to, pick up a trade or whatever. There's other ways for you to be successful, because I've met people through real estate that, I know a dude that's a multimillionaire off of vending machines. I met some incredible people. God has put me in rooms that a dude from where I'm from shouldn't be in. So that was what I wanted to share. I wanted to share anything that I could do to help the consumer base. If you want to learn about buying a house, whether you buy it with me or not, I don't give a shit.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna show you how to do it. You want to learn about real estate and how to be successful in real estate, I'll show you how to do that. And that's pretty much the premise of what I try to put out in those videos, either to educate the consumer or educate the real estate community.
I'm gonna let you ask the next question, but let me just cut you off real quick. So I gotta say I respect and I appreciate what you do for our demographics, and I come from the same type of background. I'm in a leadership role also. I work in a research facility, in which I have a whole bunch of employees that work with me, and a lot of them come from the same background, and I have to impute my knowledge, impute my experiences on them, so they could feel like they have an opportunity to reach the same level that I've reached. Or sometimes I'm sitting in a table with scientists that's been doing research and um, science for 40 plus years, and I sit in those tables and I'm like, damn, I'm not supposed to be here. But I also feel like I have a purpose of being here, because I show others like, hey, look, it can happen. Sometimes I walk around, sometimes the traditional manager or the traditional leader in the research field is not supposed to have tattoos or walk around with a fitted. But I come to work sometimes with a fitted and a hoodie or showing off my tattoos because it's like I am who I am. You know what I'm saying? I worked hard to get here. So I appreciate what you're doing, and I really respect that because I could relate to it in a different field or in a different aspect of life in a sense.
And,
So
and, and I want to speak to something that you said there because it resonates with me when you said that, showing up in the fitted or with your tattoos showing. If you go back on my Instagram, years back, like 2, 3 years ago, you can never catch me without a suit. Always custom suit, custom my my pocket square had to match my belt, my shoes, like everything. Every time I had a clothing, I had to go get a new custom suit because there was a part of me that I had an ego thing. Number one, like, oh, I have to look like money. That was number one. But number two, there was a deep insecurity within myself where I felt like if I don't wear this suit, they're gonna know I'm from the hood. If I don't wear this suit, they're not gonna work with me. If I don't wear this suit, they're gonna discriminate. They're gonna judge me. And in one of my deep, deep, deep this was like in the jungle in Costa Rica actually, doing ayahuasca. I had what they call an ego death, and I was like, I'm never wearing a suit again for work. Never again. And if you look at my, literally, you go back and you look at my timeline, like from that moment, I started like branding like clothes with my team brand. And at most, you'll see me like throw a blazer on top of this.
mm,
But I haven't touched one of my suits since then. And I think that that's the most important message, right? That we could get out to our demographic, to our community. That it's not about how you look. It's about what you know. It's about your skills, about your knowledge. And yeah, you are going to get discriminated against. But it's
absolutely.
okay because those are not your people. I tell people all the time if I show up like this to go sell a house and I know I'm prepared and I know I did the work to present to the seller before I get there, and I show up like this and they say they don't want to work with me because of this, I'm not offended because I know there's somebody that will. So you're just not it, and that's okay. And I'm not it for you, and you're not it for me, and that's okay. And we gotta be more in tune to that. That how we show up image wise is irrelevant, and I think that's lost in this new generation. But go ahead, bro. I didn't mean to
Yeah.
cut you
Nah,
off.
nah, nah.
Like,
That was real because I still battle with those insecurities sometimes. And sometimes they'll have a meeting. I'm like, let me dress appropriately, but is it really appropriately if I still have that wisdom, that knowledge, and I
yeah,
can represent myself well, and still hold my own in those settings? But I still battle those insecurities because sometimes I still, when there's meetings, I'm like, let me throw this button down, let me do it. But then now I'm still trying to get more comfortable with myself, and I'm just battling it every day. You know what I'm saying? I'm not supposed to be here. I'm not supposed to be in that role. So I'm still getting comfortable with who I am in that setting. But yeah, that's something that I'll go through also. So I appreciate you sharing that.
Right, right. When I was in high school, it was frowned upon. I'm not gonna say the high school, but it was frowned upon to wear your hair a certain way, or to have earrings in, or to have a mustache or facial hair. Even I recently went to film a game um, at my high school, and I saw a whole lot of people hair braided, mustache, facial hair, earrings, and I'm like, this is crazy. I'm like, not really crazy, but I'm like, this is something to see. Like just back then it was frowned upon. Now you are allowed to express yourself in different ways, and now you're allowed to wear your hair a certain way, and you know, just be more free with yourself. And I was like, when I was back then, it was frowned upon. We used to get in
mm-hmm,
trouble, detention for all of this type of
yeah,
stuff. So like, it was good to see like things are changing, and the school has gotten kind of like what we're talking about. The school has gotten the mindset to be like, okay, just because you wear your hair a certain way or just because you look a certain way doesn't mean that you're not quote unquote professional or prepared or where you belong. So that's just a piggyback off of what you guys were saying. But I could definitely relate to the tattoos thing because I'm like, look, I got tattoos. Before you know I have tattoos, you think one way about me. Then you see I have tattoos, your perception might change because I have tattoos. So I was just like, I know who I am, but to me, I want to see how you react when something when you see my tattoos or you see just my earrings or whatever the case may be. So that's just to piggyback
But
off what you guys were saying.
but but perspective is everything, right? Because that goes both ways,
Right.
right? Because I don't have no tattoos,
Hmm.
but I tell you that back in the day, I did a lot of illegal shit. I've been arrested many times. I was very heavily involved in the street,
Right.
and not because I had to. I chose to because where I grew up, it was like, this is what the cool guys are doing. I didn't have to. I had good parents.
Hmm.
I didn't have to. I chose to do that. But it's also like that same frame of thinking was always like I always wanted a tattoo
Hmm.
because I wanted to fit in with the crew that I was with those type of people, right? Like,
Right.
and I think that that's what's most important. That's what gets lost. That if the tattoo is you and that defines you, do that.
Right.
Like, if I wear a suit now, it's because I want to look dope that day.
Right.
You know what I mean? But if you're doing it for anything else other than your self expression,
Hmm.
then it's a problem. And that's both ways. Because I was on the same boat. I never got it, honestly, because I didn't know what to get. That's the only reason why I didn't get a tattoo. I was like, damn, everybody, the whole block got rest in peace, Junior. Like,
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
going to go do that too. Like, or I'm going to put, one of Pac's quotes or something. Like I never knew what to get. And that was killed me because I was like, damn, I got to get tatted up.
Yeah.
I just
Yeah.
never did it. But I wanted to for all the wrong reasons. I had no desire to do it. I just, and that goes both ways. I mean,
Yeah.
whether it's a suit or a tattoo, it's the same thing, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Just to segue into the next question, you spoke about how you teach the people around you or you teach your team different things about work, but do you ever, uh, ask about their mental health or try to teach them about, things that will help them with their mental health?
100%, 100%. When when I started on my mental health journey, I think that, and they tell you this, right? Like, and when I say they, I mean like when you do ayahuasca is very commercialized right now. You'll hear about it a lot these days. Will Smith done did it 1,000 times.
Joe
Joe
Rogan.
Rogan, like you hear these guys. It's very becoming mainstream now. But for the most part, when I did it, I only knew like two people that had ever done it that I knew personally, and the shamans and these indigenous people that literally live in the jungle and practice this, they tell you like, don't go home and tell nobody go do this. Like, you could share your experience, and if they're called to, great. I didn't listen to that shit. When I came back home, I'm like, yo, you have to do this, bro. Yo, you drink too much. You have to, bro, you smoke too much. Yo, you beat your wife. You got to do this. Like, I was tripping
Yeah.
until I learned that doing that pushed people further away from it. It created divisiveness. People were like, oh, John went and did all this shit and now he thinks he's a fucking monk and whatever. So I had to pull it back. But it did teach me a better way to have those conversations with people. And not just the people on my team, my family, you know, where rather than tell them what to do, I just keep asking you the question.
Right.
So how you feel when you smoke those cigarettes? You feel all right?
Right.
And I would just keep on going, like asking people questions and questions and questions till they start asking me questions. And then I share my experience. But mental health, and I think even more than mental, I mean, they're one and the same, but like even personal, like one of my team members, he recently got married, and he's much younger than me. I was like, yo, bro, let's sit down and come up with a game plan for you for work. He's like, what you mean? I'm gonna keep work. I was like, bro, that's what you think.
Mm-hmm.
You about to get married. Your wife gonna want a kid soon. Like, let's start preparing the game. Nah, bro, I'm gonna keep working the way I work. You crazy? Because I know. So I want to prepare him both personally and mentally, because I want him to understand, like, when you do get to that roadblock, you don't got to be stressing about work.
Right.
You could come to me and we could talk about this. So 100%, yeah. I know it's a long-winded answer, but yeah, 100% mental health. I'd rather my people that work with me be in great mental health and less money than them be rich and be in bad mental health. You know?
I think that's a big part of being in a leadership role is like connecting with people on a personal level. The other day I was doing like a one-on-one with one of the staff members that work with me, and the first question I asked him, it was pretty much an evaluation where I had to evaluate him. But the first question I asked him is, how am I doing as a manager? How can I help you better?
Mm-hmm.
And he told me, he was like, you're the first manager that starts off any question with being transparent and opening up the segment by saying, how can you better help me? He's like, usually people come and they tell me everything that I'm doing wrong and a little bit of things that I'm doing right. But you're asking me, how can you be better? And I was like, yeah, I'm learning just as much as you're learning your role. I haven't been a manager for 30 years. I'm only 31 years old. So there may be things that I'm doing wrong, and I want to have an open segment into where you could tell me, hey, look, I didn't really like the way you handled this situation, or hey, I need a little bit more help here. Maybe you're not aware, or whatever the case, maybe you can help me better here. And I think being a leader is just connecting with people on a human level. There's so many experiences, so many conversations that I had with some of the staff that I worked with that got deeper than my field or my daily routines on what is listed on my job description. And those people hit me up still to this day, and they're like, yo, I appreciate that conversation, or I appreciate you being there for me while I was going through this, or whatever the case may be. So when you're in the leadership role, you have to connect with your people. You have to make sure that they feel open to being expressive to you, because everybody goes through something, you know what I'm saying? And if you approach your job like, do this, do this, do that, people are not going to feel comfortable coming to you, and they're just going to call out and not take their job serious. But when they connect with you, they're going to go 110%, but also express what they're going through so you can help them out a little further.
For sure. Like, and, for me, I don't ever say things like, these people work for me.
Yeah,
We work together.
exactly. Yep.
That's why it's a team. We work together. When I go to places, I got team members that, one of them, he's 19 years old. He just graduated high school, my son. He's one of my newest members to join my team. Him over a vet on my team get the same love. If I go to an appointment where I'm bringing him on to shadow me, I introduce him to the client as my partner. I don't say, oh, this is my new employee that work. No, we work together. Even the brand, like, if you were to look at real estate brokers or team leaders in real estate, and you go ask anybody this, 90% of them, the team is branded with their name. The John Rios team, the Jonathan team, that's across the board. The John Rios group, that's always how it is. But before I started my team, I put myself in their shoes. I said, so hold on a second. If my mom wants to sell a house, right? Am I going to go put Charles Smith sign on my mom's property and then tell my mom, yeah, I'm selling that? I wanted to build something that everybody felt comfortable branding as their own. So I didn't want the John Rios team. I didn't want the Rios Realty Group. So this name, we sat as a group and came up with this name. We had a whiteboarding session, and we just started throwing words on the board, and we came to this because within one real estate transaction here in New York anyway, there's like 10, 12 people involved in one deal. You got your bank attorneys, your seller's attorney, buyer's attorney, the title company. There's so many people involved. And somebody within our group, when we brainstorming, it was like, we need synergy amongst all of those people to make these deals go through smoothly. So that's how we came up with the name. But literally, when we threw it up on the board, we was like, "You agree? You agree?" Everybody agreed. That's how we came up with the name. So everybody felt comfortable with that, and that's important. You got to make people feel like they're to your side. They're not behind you. They're not. They're
Exactly.
not beneath you.
You mentioned that you have a staff member that just graduated high school with your son. If you were in that position, what advice would you give to a younger you, like just coming out of high school or just being that age or being that young?
I think that uh, I think because I'm in this situation, I can answer that question so much better.
Yeah.
Because it's literally like when I'm talking to him, it's like I'm talking to a 21-year-old version of myself. And it's actually a lot better because he graduated with my son. So it's very different when it's your child, you know. I could tell my son a million business things, finance things. He's like, yeah, whatever. But because he's not my son, he's like a sponge. He takes heed to everything I tell him. And what I tell him is like, listen, man, if you stay focused in this, if you give this your all, you do everything I'm showing you, 4 or 5 years from now, without getting distracted with your friends and your girls, unless that's what you want to do. But if you want to be successful and you want to like retire early, let me show you how to do this consistently for 5 years. Because I think that that's where we get lost, right? Like even the people that went to college. I know people that went to college 7, 8 years, come out of college, have no life experience. They don't know how to do nothing. Never lived on their own yet. They don't even know like how to find an apartment. They don't know nothing. You know, to start living on their own, to start living life and having life experiences. So I think that in some regard, school kind of robs us of that. So what I tell him all the time is I'm like, listen, because he's fully committed. If I'd have been doing real estate at 19, his age, I'd be out of here at this point. Like we be having this podcast with me and like Bali or something. Like it'd be a different scenario. So I just try to tell him like find something that you're passionate about, whatever it is. Whether it's my son's a music producer, find whatever it is that you're passionate about and commit to that wholeheartedly for 4 or 5 years and see what happens. Because one or two things gonna happen. You're either gonna find out you really weren't that passionate about it, or you're gonna find out that this was your calling and you're gonna do something incredible with it. So outside of that, man, I wouldn't tell myself don't, typical nonsense like don't do this. I'm like that's all part of the journey for you to learn and grow. But stay committed, man. Stay committed to whatever it is that you want to do. Find out what it is you want to do and stay committed to that.
Do you feel a sense of like responsibility to mentor him and kind of throw him under the wing? Because sometimes I meet somebody that looks just like me or like acts the same way that I acted when I was young. I was a very negative mindset person. I felt like my environment controlled everything that happened around me. I felt like people were out to get me when it was pretty much I was just walking to the store. Even though negative things happened around my area, a lot of the people ended up in dead or in jail and things of that nature. And I had to just transition my mind. So when I see somebody that's in that same type of mind frame, I kind of like feel that responsibility or like that urge to like mentor. Do you have the same like urges or like sense of responsibility when you see
Mm,
someone like you, or do you feel like sometimes they don't listen? Because I do feel like sometimes they just
nah,
push me to the side.
I'm gonna tell you. So I run a mentorship program, and the first year that I did it, that was the intent. That was what it was. It was like, man, I'm gonna go in the trenches and go pick some dudes up out the trap and get them and and the mentorship program, I paid for their course, I paid for their licensing fees, I paid for them to get started, and the first time I did it was such a bust because of that, because you kind of forcing them into seeing something your way, and they not coming to you for that. you know you could say, hey, and that's how I changed the dynamic of it, where the mentorship program I run now, they gotta earn it. And at the end of the 90 days, and I tell them this from the beginning, at the end of these 90 days, you can earn a position on my team, or you could go work on your own, because I'll still help you, I'll still give you guidance, but you're not going to work for me if you're not going to work with me if these things are not in alignment with me. You're not working the way I showed you how to do this. So I think that, you know mentorship is a real slippery slope, in terms of, like, you got to let the mentee seek you out. You could put it out there that, hey, I'm willing to mentor, this is what I do, this is what I could show you, but you got to let them seek you out, and then you got to let them show you that they're serious about it. Because my first go round, it was a waste of money, and not that I care about the money, it was just more of my time, also my time and my money. So now when I get mentors, I tell them right off the bat, in my mentorship program, I tell them right off the bat, this is what it is. You don't show up, you out. These are the days you got to be here. This is what we do. You don't show up, you don't do it this way, you don't do that, you're out. And they got to earn it, and they got to show and prove. So yeah, you could wanna um, go back to the hood, but and do those type of things, but not everybody's in that mindset yet.
Hmm.
You gotta let them get there.
For me, it's hard because I really I really want to help them, but you can't really um penetrate that surface sometimes, and it's like, damn, bro, like, why can't you see eye to eye with me? But it doesn't work sometimes. So I appreciate you speaking on that
Hmm.
experience, and how you approach mentorship. And
Yeah, yeah. I feel like that goes with everybody. I mean, especially like what you mentioned with your son. You might tell him something, it just might go in one ear and out the other. But like it really, I feel like it really takes a village though.
Hmm.
Like it might somebody else might tell him the same thing that you've been telling him for years, and it might just hit him a little harder just because of maybe who that person is, or he's not hearing it all the time from you. When I was younger, I didn't really listen to what my dad was telling me.
Hmm.
Now that I'm in his position, I'm a father as well. Now that I'm in his position, like I'm like constantly asking him questions now, because
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, like I should have been paying like way more attention, but you know, you don't really see eye to eye sometimes with certain people who are telling you certain things. You're not focused. You're not on the same lane, and like maybe they got to go through something first to really get that idea. Like, oh shit, like I gotta start listening, or I gotta change something or do something differently. So yeah.
what are some of the things that you're working on now? Like, what do you have planned for the future?
Um, recently I just recently signed a different deal with a different real estate brokerage. Um, the reason being was I wanted to be able to expand nationally and also internationally, and I couldn't necessarily do that under the company that I was with before, because the way that works is, like, you got to hold a license in all of those different states, which was why we were only working in New York and Connecticut. But now, um, the the broker I work with now is in all 50 states and like 8 or 9 other countries. So, I could put my cousin in North Dakota down to work with Synergy, and I could coach them and train them virtually, and grow my brand into these other states legally now. So that's really what I'm doing. I'm also a real estate coach within my coaches program. Um, I've been doing that now for like 6, 7 months. I coach newer agents that are new to the business. And I enjoy that a lot. So, the plan is to expand on my coaching business, expand our team out into other places, and most importantly, man, keep working on myself, man. Keep working on myself. I had like a 2 year stint of a lot of self work, and then you got to come back and integrate and get back to your regular life and start doing things again. But definitely interested in going back out there and learning some more things about myself and going deeper, so to speak.
Who would you who would you consider it was like your biggest inspiration? I know you said Helen inspired you. Your wife was there as your support system. She also inspired you to be better. But is there anybody else that you would um, praise or highlight as inspiration for you?
Yeah, Helen got me in the game. My wife was the first one to ever plant the seed in my head to do real estate, and she's my rock through everything, through real estate, through personal shit, finance shit, like everything. But I would say anyone else beyond that, my real estate coach, he was a tremendous influence on showing me what's possible. He's also a Latino from the hood that sold a $3 billion business. And he was a huge influence in my life. But more recently, um, my son, man, my son, my son is, he'll be 20 in November, and you know, I spent like the first. He's been a music producer now for like 3 years, and I spent like the first year and a half or so like trying to shove it down his throat. Like, let me connect you with this person. Let me put and like connecting the dots for him. And mom, you gonna get. We went crazy. He did tracks with a lot of dope people already. He's worked with a lot of dope people, but I want to say like a year and a half in, I had to like dial it back because I realized that number one, it was too much for him, and number two, it's at his pace. Like I gotta let him, evolve. So I realized in taking a step back that I just started watching how he was moving, and yeah, I'm still connecting some dots for him, but he really stepped into his own, and he's really getting himself out there on his own and doing his own thing, and it's really dope to watch because we are polar opposites personality wise. He's super introverted and quiet and reserved, and I'm the one like we just recently went to a networking event together, and he's like, "Oh, what do I do?" I was like, "Don't worry, I'm I'm gonna talk to the people. Don't worry." But yeah, he's such an influence for me in many ways. I learned so much from him about life. He doesn't even know he's teaching me games. So my son, man, for sure.
Appreciate that.
Yeah,
You have any questions?
no, I mean, what would you just to I guess end it all? Like, what would you tell anybody? Any piece of word of advice or to anybody who's watching this?
Um, what I would say to people that is watching this, we all are born into or experience some sort of traumas in our lives growing up, and the longer we wait to address them, they eventually show up in another way, whether it's in our health or within our aggression or however it may show up. And I would strongly encourage people that, me and you met through Jonathan. And Jonathan is one of the biggest people that helped me through, my rage, my anger, my violence, my depression, and figuring out where that comes from. And I think that a lot of the time we get caught up in what society tells us we should be doing as far as a career, as far as go get a family, go get a house, go get a business, go get right, man. Go get yourself right. Take care of yourself, love yourself, be good internally, then go figure everything else out. Because for me personally, I didn't even try to start doing that. I'll be 39 on Friday. I just started trying to figure myself out 2 years ago. 37 years. Jumping from avatar to avatar, because that's what I did my whole life. I was a street guy. I was a hospital worker. I was a realtor. I didn't know who I was. I didn't know, and I'm still learning who I am, what I like to do. But it's very important, man. I know that sounds corny, but
No, not at all.
if you
Never
you
corny, bro.
Not at
you
all,
gotta you gotta go within yourself. Find yourself first before becoming a dad, before becoming a business owner, entrepreneur, wanting to be Diddy, Rick Ross, whatever. Go find yourself. Find out who you are. Find out what you like. Find out what moves you. Find out what makes you cry. All of that, and then do whatever it is you want to do. That's it, man.
That's powerful, bro. I appreciate that. We was going down the list of a hundred names, and I don't know you from a hole in the wall. Again, I sent him your Instagram. I showed him the value that you're putting out. I just was able to gravitate towards the energy and the knowledge that you're putting out to the world, and I could pretty much see your intentions on what you was doing with the social media platform. So me and him both came to an agreement to bring you onto this platform, and my thought process was I was going to learn a lot about real estate, or you was going to give me some value, but I think we went a lot deeper than that, and I truly appreciate you being vulnerable and expressing yourself at a high level. You know what I'm saying? Because a lot of people gonna relate to it. I'm learning from you as you're speaking, so I definitely appreciate it.
No, I appreciate y'all. I appreciate y'all. It's an honor. It's an honor. Like I said before, man. Um, I was always trying to shove my experiences down people's throat and tell them, tell them I was like, all right, just let it happen organically. And like you said, I don't know you either, and I think that the more I get an opportunity to share these things, whether it's on my own platform or others, I just hope that it resonates with somebody and it could help them out. So I appreciate y'all for real.
Definitely, we're definitely gonna stay connected and definitely work on a bunch of things because I feel like we have a lot of value to bring towards our people. So we're definitely gonna stay connected. And I definitely appreciate you. I hit you up on a DM and you was let's do it when you want to do it,
Yeah.
and we got it done in a week. So I definitely appreciate you. Can you just plug into like your Instagram or where they could find you, maybe your website or anything of that nature?
Yeah, my Instagram is John JOHNJ Rios, John J Rios. That's my Instagram. My business Instagram is Synergy Team NY. And my podcast Instagram as well is Connected with John. Connected with John, that's my Instagram as well. And I'm not somebody that anybody will tell you. You hit my DM, I'll respond to anybody. I'll answer any questions. I'll help you with whatever I can. So if you're hearing this, you're seeing this, and you want to ask me a question, you can hit me. It's no big deal.
Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you being
Yeah,
here,
I
brother.
appreciate y'all.
Yes, sir. Appreciate you, bro.
Thank you for tuning in to another episode of the Respect Your Passion podcast. I'm Jonathan Cruz, your host, Chubby, and I'm here with David Irons off the bench. Thank you to Brian behind the scenes, videographer, sound engineer. Miles couldn't join us today, but thank you to Miles also, who's a part of our team. Tune in to the next episode. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate all the support.
Yes,
Peace,
sir.
y'all.